It's the Church Solutions Podcast, brought to you today by mychurchdaily.com. My name is Phil Thompson.
And I'm Steve Lacy.
And I'm Mike Gray.
Mike Gray is with us today. I wanted to mention before we get into what we're going to talk about today, mychurchdaily.com is a product that we just recently developed, and check it out. Go to the website, mychurchdaily.com. It really is a great tool that can help your church use Alexa to have flash briefings. You can upload audio messages, short audio messages every day if you like.
Here's your flash briefing.
Stop. Alexa, stop. See, I screwed up there. Alexa was
See how that works? That's awesome.
Alexa, stop. There we go. It stopped. So, all right, we'll just edit that out. No, we won't. But
there's a commercial going on there for it.
Good grief. This is our comedy element today. So anyhow, check out mychurchdaily.com. You can get a flash briefing using an Amazon Echo device. And I just said that with a straight face. Get that, Mike? Straight face. We're advertising on Facebook for this thing. And we've gotten a few people that have made some strange comments about mychurchdaily.com.
Yeah, quite negative. So we don't know the connotation of that yet. We're on the discovery process of why people would think that's a bad idea.
Well, anytime you're on social media, there's haters, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
There's haters everywhere.
Well, there's a video of Brittany who works with us who talked about this My Church Daily, and the comment was something like, "I can't believe she's saying this with a straight face," or something like that. I don't know. And there's other ones too that have been, this is dumb. So, we think it's a great idea, and everybody we've talked to thinks it's a good idea as well. So I'm going to open this up. Folks, let us know what you think. Check it out. We'd love to get your feedback. Just send us an email, support@mychurchdaily.com, or you can do support@streamingchurch.tv. Let me know what you think. Do you think it's a dumb idea? Do you think it's a good idea to have a flash briefing to connect people to your church? Anyhow, you can look it up, but
it kind of plays into our topic today, just a touch, the idea of it, being relational and staying connected to people.
Right. Which we should probably get into now. So Mike Gray has been with us. So we've known Mike for many, many years now. He was an executive pastor. He was a church online pastor. You probably did everything when it came to church stuff for years. And Mike's been working with us since the pandemic hit. And we've known him, like I said, for many years before that. And so, if you have one of our products, chances are you might chat with Mike or might talk to him on the phone. But today we're going to tap into Mike's experience, his pastoral experience, easy for you to say. And today we're going to talk about filling the relational void in the church. So filling the relational void. Maybe we'll come up with a fancier title after we do this. But there are several points here about relationships in the church, and I love what we're going to talk about today. But let me just start off by asking you this, Mike. I mean, is there a relational void in the church? I mean, I thought church was all about friendship and people.
Well, this thing happened. First, there was all of this new technology that we all have at our fingertips that makes everything so much easier. And with that shift, then there was this giant virus thing. You call it, we'll just leave that conversation to a virus thing happened, and it caused us to isolate. And we have stayed isolated in many cases in the church context. I think this is the biggest opportunity time that the church has ever seen in modern history, because people are desperate for relationship, but they're remaining isolated. I've talked to several people in the last few weeks that say, I don't know why I can't get out of my funk. I stopped going to church and I just haven't gotten back into the rhythm. So, and we've seen that. We've done a few podcasts about people not coming back to church after COVID.
Yeah.
So, and as high as 30 and 40% of people not coming back to church.
Right.
So what's the opportunity? The opportunity is to shift out of what's easy and simple and technology and lean into being relational. I think it's the biggest opportunity the church has seen in modern history to really connect with people, but we're going to have to do some different things in order for that to happen, I think.
And this is kind of indicative of, I mean, social media came on and said, oh, we're never going to be more connected than we ever were. We're in constant contact with everybody. And so, you know, my relations are going to get deepened and broadened, and that wasn't the case, right? I mean, that's also introduced a void, I think, in the relationship picture as well, right?
Yes, it's led to more isolation. Ironically, seemed like it was going to be the best thing ever to connect us and keep us connected, and then it wasn't. Cindy and I were just talking. Cindy's my wife, and we were just talking about a story she had read about in Japan. The government is literally taking steps to connect people together relationally because their birth rate has fallen off extremely because people are isolating and they're staying isolated. And this is not just a COVID thing. This has been going on for a decade and getting worse and worse and worse, that people, while connected digitally, do not have a relationship with each other.
Yeah. Well, and even, even before all this stuff happened, you know, the church, people would come to church and have fellowship. That's kind of an old word, but they would connect with each other. And then it seems like over the last 20 years or so or longer, there's a shifts in how church is done in for some organizations, where it's almost you sit and get entertained and then you leave. You know, and I know not everybody does that. I'm not saying that's everybody, but there are a number of people where you just come in, get entertained, so to speak, and then you go, and there's not a lot of people getting involved in small groups or other parts of ministry.
Yeah, very easy to fall into that trap because we move towards what's time, the economy of time. I'm going to use email. I'm going to use, you know, and that becomes our primary communication. Our newsletter and our email are our source that we're counting on as our primary communication tool. And the downside to that is it's very one directional. That's broadcasting.
Yeah.
That's not communication, and it's not relational.
Right. All right. So let's talk about what are some solutions here. I'm sorry, Steve, I'm stepping on.
I was going to drive down the same thing. So there's a great opportunity here. So how does the church jump in to fill this void and to be pros in it? And you kind of put an outline together, and I wasn't sure what your second point here was all about. So tell us what.
But it's not an ad. So I do. I'm a Patterson life plan facilitator. So I do take people through life plan. And so I spend 2 days and 8 hours one-on-one with people, even through the pandemic. I just kept my distance. We were in the same room, but opposite ends of the room. And we talked and we learned about their story and their information. And they had revelation and really great connection and forward momentum in that process. It works every time. But that time of connection, one-on-one, in the same room, face-to-face, no masks, just being honest and real with one another, really ticked in my mind when I thought about this topic. I'm like, wow, there's such a dramatic change of understanding someone better when I can see their face and how they're responding in our conversation. while maybe on a meeting environment like this, that might happen. This might be a tool that helps me be more relational. But an email or even a text, I can't see your face. So I can't be, you may be saying one thing and Ace is saying something else. You've had a conversation that's happened, right?
Oh, yeah.
You're saying yes, but your body and everything else is saying no. And I think the church is missing out on that opportunity. And a lot of it's expediency, urgency. I'm so busy, so frantic that we don't build a relationship with volunteers, for instance, that would actually fill the gaps to give us more time. But especially even just attenders, hey, they just want somebody to take a moment and have a real conversation with them.
Right. So it's kind of what you're talking about is having the ability to kind of slow down and sit with some people and kind of get to know them. I mean, my mind goes to, well, how can the church do that? Their staff would be overwhelmed if I've got a church of 500 and I've got, a staff of 5 or something. That would be really tough to do. But there's things, what comes to mind for me is small group. I mean, that's a unique opportunity to break people into smaller groups, get to know them, slow down, kind of spend some time, getting to know who people are, what drives them and that sort of thing.
I agree, Steve. And another piece would be that this is the foundation. This is the core of a really great leadership. If you're going to be a really great leader, then you need to reproduce what you're trying to accomplish in 4 or 5 people. So let's say I got 4 or 5 people on my team and I say, guys, this is the year we're going to step outside the box. We're going to be the purple cow, different from everyone else. And we're going to actually be really relational with everybody we're connected with in our ministry. And so I'm pouring into those 5 guys, and each guys and gals, and all 5 of them are reproducing that. Then it becomes a really massive movement of relational connection with real breathing live people, not an email box, a screen on your computer or your phone.
It reminds
really
me of
being relational.
I was just gonna, a brief little side note kind of along these same lines. My wife and I had gotten married many, many moons ago, and we found this new church, and we kind of really liked this church, but it's a really tiny church. And I had an upbringing, I was raised Catholic, and the pastor of this church says, I want to come by your house and meet you, kind of a thing, and get to know you. And my wife and I were both just kind of terrified of the thought of this guy coming by our house.
I'm coming to your house. Hide all your bad things you don't want me to see.
Hide the beer, the pastor's here.
And so, but what happened though was it was very pivotal, because you find out I was raised Catholic, so the priests were these holy guys, so the pastors were these superhuman individuals in my mind, and you find out these are regular guys, and he's got some regular, it just really changed the whole relationship that I had with the church by just having him come to the house. And I asked him some questions about certain things, and he would answer them, and it was a really good experience. Even though he asked me, we would like to come to your house, and if you want to sign up to have someone come to your house, I would be the guy going, no way. But he was very intentional about wanting to get to know us better. And it was a very good experience. So anyway, it was just an example of what you're talking about, when you're sitting face to face with somebody, and it really takes the relationship to another level if you can get in the same room and spend, lunch, I think, is a good vehicle for this as well,
So how can we do that in our right now today? And, some folks still don't want to be close to, they want to stay social distance. how do we have that connection? Because I want to come to your house may not be the best approach. So what do you guys think? What are some other ideas on how to approach it? How would I have that conversation with you best now?
I think the number one thing is you need to gauge people's sensitivities before you, with COVID. I mean, you're kind of acting or talking about with regard to COVID. How do I become relational but maintain social distancing?
Yeah.
I mean, I think number one is to find out where people are at, because everyone's at different parts of the spectrum, even within my own family with kids and moms. The new moms are just at one extreme, and I'm towards the other extreme. And so, you've got to gauge what's going to be the right environment. So I don't know
I think there can be some compromise too. I mean, I think, meeting outside, if the weather's good, or meeting somewhere where it's not a small space. And so if you're concerned about COVID-19, and I think, there are definitely some legitimate concerns there, you want to practice social distancing, but you can still, as you were saying earlier, Mike, when you were going through your life plan, you can still meet with people, but be at a distance. And as Steve is saying, you want to take in the comfort factor. Are people comfortable meeting? And if so, where are they at? Do you meet outside? Do you meet in the mall somewhere? Do you meet at a coffee shop? Or do you meet in somebody's home? I mean, it just depends on them. But
and that hinges, Steve, both of you guys have said this, in that hinges on a relationship conversation. And I say, hey, Phil, I would really like to get together with you. Tell me where you're at and what comfort level you might have, and how we would meet together, but not make you uncomfortable. What would that look like? Would we need to be masked? Would we not need to be masked? Would we need to be social distance? Would we need to be outside? What would it look like to where, because I really want to know more about you. I want to find out about, and that's how I'm going to lead into that conversation, so that I, as you guys said, gauge their comfort level. And I bring the meeting into their with ease, instead of it being, as Steve said, freaked out because the pastor's coming. So I think that transitions into what we were going to talk about next, is then to continue that conversation. Let's say we meet and we have a great meeting, and I get to know Steve had a great meeting. But now, what is the avenue? What is the tool? What is the resource that we can utilize to best stay connected? So we had a great connection. I don't want to leave that and not nourish it and develop it. So then I say, hey, Phil, how's the best way to stay connected and communicate with you? So what do you guys think are the most popular answers to that question?
Well,
unless they say, I don't like you, please don't communicate to me.
I think of really good, there's a dating service that was built on this whole premise. It's called It's Just Lunch. Have you heard of that?
Just Lunch. All right.
Yeah, It's Just Lunch. It was kind of their little niche. I don't know if they exist anymore, but it was kind of a deal where it was dating. I didn't use this, I've been married for many years, but I just remember seeing it. But I think lunch is a really good vehicle to establish some relationship. It's going to have a set time period. You don't know that, the pastor's coming over. Is he going to be here for 30 minutes or 4 hours? It's a good tool, I think, to propose and use. And then, and plus it's out into a neutral environment. I don't know. I'm a big fan of utilizing lunches to get to know people better.
Yeah, neutral space, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, coffee's another opportunity, or something like coffee. Some people aren't coffee drinkers, Steve Lacy, but
yes.
There's other things you can drink, other beverages you can drink to do things.
You have your sweet tea.
Yeah,
that's right. I'll have my
go.
Frappuccino at the Starbucks, my little milkshake.
A good friend of mine, Adam Colwell, we've had him on the podcast before, and I've known Adam for decades, because we were in broadcasting together. During the pandemic, we did use Zoom. Him and I would meet once a month in Zoom for about an hour or so. And then as we got vaccinated and things started to settle down, we actually did meet. He actually came over and did that. So again, I think it's all back to that whole thing, what are you comfortable with, and I don't think it's wrong to use technology to stay connected, but I think, as we were saying here at the very beginning, if that's all you're doing, I think you're missing out on a bigger picture,
I agree, Phil. Technology is a supplement. It's not the primary source of relationship. At some point, I have to, you have to look at me and I have to look at you, and we gauge each other's responses and we have a conversation somehow, some way, whether we meet live or we meet on Zoom. I think people really need to meet live. I love the idea of meeting in a park. I've done that with some of my clients. We meet in the park. They can sit as far away from me, or we can stand and be out in the fresh air and have a great conversation that is maybe worry-free in that environment, to help them get comfortable, so that then we can move to, hey, let's meet on Skype next time, or what else?
Yeah.
Or Zoom, Skype or Zoom. Or
yeah. So you kind of, in our the outline here, you threw out some options here as well. Should we go over some of them?
Yeah. Let's talk about that. How you guys use those, as well as maybe some new ways to use those.
So the first one you had not the first, but maybe the fifth one here is phone calls, personal phone calls. So how would you use, what's a bad way to use personal phone calls?
Soliciting.
Yes.
So I want you to do something for me. Buy my stuff. I have your warranty has run out on your car. Bad ways to use. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I was just,
well, I think it's again, talked about in advance, hey, let's touch base with a phone call once in a while. When somebody calls me, I generally block them, is what I usually do. So I need to have a heads up that you might be calling me. But I think I still keep going back to Mike's original thought, and that is, if you can do some kind of a face-to-face in some capacity, and then the phone calls, the Zoom, the Google Meets, or whatever you call them, those are added on there. But I think a phone call touching base once in a while is good, especially if somebody's going through something,
Yeah, absolutely.
A difficult time.
Absolutely. And even if you block the call, I know I've talked to some pastor leaders and I've experienced some of this. They just called everybody, and it wasn't the senior pastor calling anybody. It was a volunteer, because they're already at home and they're already have time on their hands. And so they just called everybody. And when I ignored them, they left me a nice voicemail, and they just said, hey, it's Joe. I'm checking on you, seeing how you're doing. Give me a call back if you get a chance. I'd love to have a conversation with you.
Yeah. I think the other point you make here, Mike, as we talk about, filling the relational voids in the churches today, is the text messages, the personal text messages. And there's some stat, we talked about it before when we talked about communicating. The text messages are very popular. They're very, what's the word? They're not, intrusive? Intrusive. I think they're not intrusive. So, you get a text message from somebody, you can see it, you can read it. It's not real long, but it's greeting somebody, checking in, saying, hey, how's it going? Hope you have a great day. Let's have coffee sometime, those kind of things. Text messages get read, and they seem to be responded much better than a phone call.
Yeah, it's probably a good precursor. I know I use it to a phone call as well.
Yeah,
and say, hey,
absolutely.
send a text and go, hey, you got a minute for a phone call,
Right.
and get a response. And that way,
Yeah.
you're not calling at the wrong time and
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Yeah. And I think personal emails is another thing that you've got on your list here, Mike, that I think, again, can be good. Personal emails, something that's again, touching base with somebody. Maybe you talked about them. Hopefully you've talked before and there was something that they were dealing with, and maybe you could ask them how that's going, the health issue or, personal issue, if you feel at liberty to do that. And just bring that up, just, not in a real direct way, but in a way that say, hey, I'm thinking about you. I care about you. And we hope that you're doing okay through this situation you're in.
Yeah. And there's ways to make sure that you make sure it's personal, right, as well. So that, because that really, getting a spam email or a form email, where you're like, thanks for whatever it may be, is not as nice as getting a personal, and you can tell them apart when you're receiving them.
Yeah, I'm old fashioned but I like to say, hello, Steve, or hi, Steve, how's it going? Not just, some people send emails and it's just, everything's lowercase and there's 2 or 3 sentences and it just seems impersonal. Even if it is personal, it seems impersonal because there's no, hi, how are you doing? And I know that there's a joke about, I hope this email finds you well. I know there's jokes about that, email finds me terrible, it's COVID-19. What do you expect? But, being nice in the email, a nice little opening, nice little closure, kind of like in the old days when you learned how to write a letter. The only thing is you're typing it up now and sending it as an email instead of a letter.
There's a novel idea.
Yeah. And, honestly, Mike, since we're on that topic, I mean, people still get snail mail. People still have mailboxes.
They do. And it's really weird when you see one that's handwritten, right?
Yeah. It's kind of special if somebody sends you a card and actually writes something in the card,
Yeah. I just listened to a story this morning about a woman who's part of a church that she had a really rough life and lots of challenges, became a Christian, and she said she became a prayer warrior. And so she'd get the list of the church members and take 10 of them and send them a card that week and say, I'm praying for you. How can I better pray for you? And it was just a really, a moving thing. And then she mentioned that, she actually passed away, but she got cancer. And the reciprocal of the church sending her cards, she was just blown away by the outpouring that just sending, reciprocating, sending the cards. She didn't do it to do, she just said, I'm a prayer warrior. I'm going to pray for people. So I'm going to let them know I'm praying for them, and I'm going to send them a postcard and, let them know, whether I know them very well or not, I'm telling them, I know who you are, and we're going to pray for you.
The law of sowing and reaping. If you want relationship, then sow relationship. And
that is
as
so
an
true.
individual and as an organization. If you want people to stay connected to your organization in a really meaningful way, then you have to, as a person, as a pastor, as a church leader, you have to sow relationship. Because if you don't, then when the pandemic hits, 30% of your people aren't coming back.
Right. All right. So we're just about out of time here. I was going to say, when I was a senior pastor, I occasionally would get a card or two from somebody that, liked something I said, and I still have them. I still keep them. So whenever I'm not feeling real good about myself, I pull out those cards once in a while, both of them, and look at them. One's from my wife, but no, I'm kind of kidding. I've actually had a few cards over the years, and it really means a lot. So that's okay. So we're running out of time here, but Mike, you say this in the outline that you gave Steve and I. When communicating, always choose the relational option, not the easy option. What's the easy option?
Easy option is email. And don't get me wrong, I think a newsletter is the most powerful tool that a business or ministry can have. However, it's one-way communication
Right.
that never replaces relational connection and communication.
Yeah.
So choose the hard stopping you and having, hey, Phil, how can we have lunch, have coffee, meet at the park? I want to know more about, fill in the blank.
Yeah. Yeah, they absolutely right there. All right, so we're out of time. Michael Gray has been our guest. He actually works with us at streamingchurch.tv, as well as the other things we have here with this wonderful company, which is now 20 years old. Congratulations, Steve, our CEO and founder, for 20 years of serving
amazing.
churches. It's pretty amazing. We need to have a party one of these days.
All right.
Get people all over the country, get them all together, and let's have a party and we can infect each other with COVID. No, I'm just kidding. All right. So folks, we'd love to get your feedback on this. Add something to whatever we've got here or disagree with us. We're all ears, and you can send us an email, support@streamingchurch.tv. And we'd love to get some feedback from you on this. And I see Mike's taking some notes. We've got Google Docs here. Google Docs, you can edit and there's real-time changes here. We should do a podcast on Google Docs, but it's a great tool for churches. But I do want to remind people, check out mychurchdaily.com and check it out and let us know what your thoughts are on that. And maybe make a free trial if you're so inclined. Gives you the opportunity to be on the Amazon Echo devices with your daily flash briefings and such. So, well, all right, guys, thank you. We're out of time. This has been really good. Thank you so much.
Good to be here.
Thank you. Great to be here.
All right. Now it's good to have you back on here, Mike. And folks, thank you for spending some time with us today on the Church Solutions Podcast. My name is Phil Thompson. Take care of yourselves. We'll catch you next time on another episode of the Church Solutions Podcast.